Hey guys, welcome back. So today I am going to be starting my very first seeds of the 2023 season. I need to start my onions. I'm actually probably a few days late on doing this. I really needed to do it the last week of December, but here we are the first week of January. It should be fine. I'm really not too worried about it. But first, I actually did want to go through all of my seed starting equipment. I get a lot of questions on things I use. I definitely know my setup now is a lot greater than it once was. I have gotten a few comments being like, wow, I really need to step up my game. Guys, I have started seeds with far less than what I'm going to show you now. This is 6 years of accumulating things for seed starting, and I really kind of weeded out the things I no longer use when I do that. So I figured I would kind of just walk you through the few things I do use and explain lights. You guys ask me all the time about what grow lights I use, and I actually have 3 different sets of grow lights actually. So I wanted to walk you through that. So here to my left, you will see I have a full-blown like grow tent setup. This was something I was actually gifted from Active Grow last spring, and I really like the lights. I won't necessarily say I'm in love with like the structure of the shelving. Last spring, when I ended up repotting some plants, I didn't really read the instructions, and the shelves only have a 40-pound weight limit. So if you have a ton of seeds on a shelf, or if you up potted things and they're just that much heavier, especially after watering them, I had issues with just the shelves collapsing. So that was kind of unfortunate. That was the one reason I didn't like it necessarily. It works absolutely amazing for just getting seeds started. Not necessarily using these like huge pots right here. They don't work too well for anything too large, but I absolutely love the lights from Active Grow. They are definitely my most powerful. As you can probably see behind me, they are definitely the brightest. And this is another thing I really wasn't like sure of last spring, because I got these lights and then they were so much more powerful that I ended up having so much more growth than I initially would with these lights. So I've gotten away with using some really cheap lights, which definitely work. And then I have these lights here that are more on a professional growing level. And I will say these are more powerful. They did create better starts, a lot stronger going outside. And since these lights are so powerful, I didn't have as many issues transitioning my seedlings outside when hardening them off. When it comes to, okay, so to name these off, I have this set here called Barina as well. And I really do like the Barinas. They are an absolutely great choice for something that is affordable, especially if you're just starting out. I've had really good luck with these Barina lights. It's these 3 shelves here that are more pinky colored. I really have liked them. I think they're affordable, they're great, and they really get the job done if you're looking for an affordable option. The last grow light I have, I don't actually have it turned on at the moment, because the moment I turn it on, you will hear there's fans to them. I initially bought one of these the second year I seed started, and then we bought a second one going into the 3rd year, and I think they work really great. I actually did look them up before this video, and unfortunately it looks like they are no longer available. So if I will try to look them up a little bit more, and if I have any luck, I will tag those lights. But I will say those Y grows right there, the ones I just turned off, those are probably like my middle tier lights. They work really great. They are definitely a little bit more powerful than those Barinas there, but they were, I think, like $70 to $80 a pop. When you get a whole set of these Barinas here, I think I bought 2 sets of them for right around $100. I think they're like $50, $60 a pack, which is absolutely great for seed starting. And in reality, you could probably get away with 1 pack if you're not starting a ton of seeds. So yeah, that is definitely my whole spiel on grow lights. Another thing I make sure I have in my grow room is fans. So I have 2 fans here. You want airflow. If you don't have airflow, I'm in my basement, guys. So if I don't have airflow, it's just really still down here. And I had issues initially, like 3-4 years ago, just with plants starting to get a little bit of like disease, because unfortunately I had 0 airflow down here, and I really just had no idea. So Definitely get yourself a few good fans. It will really help you out in the long run, especially if you're planning on growing anything that you're going to have to cure later on, like garlic, onions, potatoes. You're going to need these fans regardless for that airflow, so just go ahead and wait for them to pop on sale and get a few. All right, so this big blue container here is what I use to mix up all of my soil before throwing them into pots or creating soil blocks. So I will throw some organic soil in this container, mix it up with water, get a really good consistency. I like to pre-moisten my soil before I put it in any pots. It really just helps make sure there's no dry pockets in like any like little container like this. And when you do soil blocking, you do have to have a moisture consistency. And I will be doing soil blocking today, so I will show you that whole process as well. But all I do is I take organic potting mixes. I've used a handful throughout the years. I have Miracle Gro's organic certified one here currently because it was the only thing that was at my Lowe's and I needed potting soil. So I grabbed that. I have some water, so we'll get all that mixed up here shortly. I also like to have a few gardening utensils to help me mix and scoop into all of my containers. And then my number one thing I absolutely have to have when seed starting is painter's tape. I love using painter's tape to label. It comes off so easily that you really don't have to struggle with it. I've used these containers for 5 years and I've used these ones for 6 years and they are still going really strong. I'm not having to scrub anything off like crazy, but painter's tape is so handy when labeling, at least in my opinion. So talking about all of my different container options we have, let me get a few down here. I have quite a few down and I have some favorites, and I will be completely honest with you guys on the ones I have not liked through the years. So let's see here. All right. Okay, so we are going to start with these ones here. You can see these little pots. I absolutely love the size of these, but unfortunately I did not like them for seed starting at all. So I actually had so many issues getting my plants out of these when I was trying to plant my garden last spring. I got these last seed starting season and they're really just, I love that they're stiff because they'll last, but it's really, really difficult to get plants out of them. And unfortunately, I had probably a good 12 plants I had to just toss because the roots ended up just getting stuck and they didn't survive. So I actually do not think I will be using any of these small ones at all this year, but I really, really, really like Bootstrap's 5-inch pot. So if you have to do any type of potting, I really, really like these because they came with these little containers here and they just fit the slots so easily as I'm struggling to get one of them out. But I really liked how these stayed in. It made transporting bigger plants outside so much easier because, again, I'm in my basement, so it can be kind of difficult to get things up and down and make sure I'm not having plants fall over. So I really do like their 5-inch pots because that little tray here can just be inserted into another seed tray, and that's not going anywhere. It makes it really sturdy, and I really, really liked this whole setup. But again, with Bootstrap Farmer, I also have these ones here, which is the size bigger than these, and these are just as stiff as those smaller pink ones, and they weren't my favorite. I had issues with these for the last 2 years, I believe. So unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be using a lot of those. My tried and true favorites have been these containers here. Again, I've used these ones for this is 5 years strong. I've only had to get rid of a handful of them from cracking, but they're really sturdy, but they're also really flexible. I mean, look how flexible that is compared to this. I can't even bend this one. I don't think I can bend, but again, it's really hard to get these to bend. I had a few of these crack on me, unfortunately, but these ones are just a little bit thinner. And I really like them. These ones are not bootstrap. I believe this is a company called like Monkey Incorporated or something. I honestly can't remember, but if I can still link them, I will definitely link them for you. I also like these smaller green ones, and I honestly have zero idea where these ones were from because, again, they're 6 years old. But you can find some really great options on Amazon. These ones are Amazon as well. Again, with these ones, I got these ones off Amazon. These ones are super flimsy, but I have had these now for 2 years, and honestly, they're still holding up really well. This is what I've used to up hot tomatoes in before getting like this whole system, and they worked great. I will make sure I link all of these for you guys, but again, my tried and trues are definitely these. You can typically start seedlings in this, and I typically don't have to up pot them. That was another issue I had with these smaller ones, was if I wasn't going to be planting out these little guys within like a 4 to 6 week period, maybe 8, these were just a little bit too small in my opinion. And typically like some of those longer ones like peppers, I'll have going inside for like a good 10, 12 weeks before they get thrown out. So before we get into soil blocking, let's talk about all of my seed trays. So the one reason I initially started using like any Bootstrap Farmer products was I bought Bootstrap Farmer myself a few years back because I just heard really good things about how sturdy these were. So I previously to buying these ones now are, this will be going on year 3 with these. I love these so much. They've held up so well. They are so strong. They can hold up to like 25, 30 pounds without like breaking a sweat. A lot of the ones that you can find from like Lowe's and like Home Depot, they are so flimsy. The moment you even pick them up, they're falling apart. So if you plan to do a lot of seed starting, I really do suggest getting yourself some good seed trays. Previous to that, I was just using baking sheets to get me by. I used baking sheets just to help transport everything. But having a bunch of trays and like having your seedlings in trays, especially when you're trying to harden them off, it's a lot easier. It's just a lot easier. So I have these ones here. These are the 10 20s. They're the regular basic ones. Absolutely love these. I also have, where are they? I also have these ones here that are the mesh bottoms, and I use these for a lot of my soil blocking, which you guys will see here in a little bit. I love these for soil blocking. If I have like a ton of these in here and I need to bottom water, it just gives you a little bit extra wiggle room to where your plants just won't be sitting in water for too long either. So I really, really love this like duo here. Absolutely, they are my favorite. So the last type of tray I have is this one here. You can see that these ones are actually a lot more shallow. These are also bootstrap as well. So these are 2.5 inch sidewalls and these are 1 inch sidewalls. I personally like the 2.5 a lot better, but the 1 inches are a lot cheaper. They get the job done. They're obviously not as hefty duty or sturdy, but again, they are a lot more affordable if you're looking for more of an option like that. Again, I didn't even have seed trays for like the first 2 or 3 years of doing any seed starting because I was so cheap, but I will say if you invest in anything, invest in seed trays. They have been so helpful, guys. I've had so many seedlings fall off of my baking sheets and then tumble down the stairs, and then I barely could save them. It was very tragic. We are going to be starting onions today. Let's see, I have 2 red varieties and 2 yellow varieties that I'm going to be doing this year, which I actually haven't done 3 out of the 4. So the one I'm going to give one more chance. This is the 3rd year I'll be growing this Cabernet red onion. I'm going to give it one more shot. It hasn't been my favorite the last 2 years, but I've learned a few more things about onions. I'm going to give it one more chance because I have a lot of issues finding intermediate day seed varieties for onions, especially red varieties, so I'm going to give this a go. I also have the Walla Walla, which is more of a long day onion, but we're going to go ahead and try to grow it. So if you're new to onion growing, there is long day, short day, and intermediate day onions, which all falls off of how much sunlight you get like during peak summer, and that's how the bulb is created. And here where I am, since I'm like middle of the United States, I'm right in that intermediate right there. So we're gonna try Walla Walla. I've seen a handful of people in like this like middle belt of the US have good luck with Walla Walla, so I'm gonna give it a try. This next one is an intermediate hybrid variety called Caliber, which I'm really excited about. This is one from Johnny's that I got. I can't remember why I initially wanted this hybrid, but it had some good points to it. The last one I have is the Flat of Italy, which is this red variety here that is an heirloom. So we have all different types going. I have had success growing onions, but I haven't had the success I like truly want with onions yet. So I've grown onions now for 2 years. This will be year 3. Year 1, I actually had bigger bulbs somehow than year 2. But year 2, we were a lot drier. So I definitely am going into this next year making sure that these onions get what they need, because onions are so much water and they definitely need a lot of water to make sure you get that big bulb. So I don't know if I'm going to let my soil dry out so much as I did with my onions this last year, just to kind of see if that plays a card. Another thing I'm doing differently with seed starting is, so the year prior, I kind of did this, but I didn't. I soil blocked onions, but I planted like maybe 4 to 6 per block. And that was as crowded as I get. So you can do a lot of research on onions. A lot of people suggest sowing your onions super thick, where it almost looks like grass. And you can just pull the onions apart because the onion roots are just very wiry. Okay, had great success with this until the day of planting. So they did pull away really easily, but I still had some breakage, and that ended up causing a handful of them just to die off the bat, and that's not really what I wanted to go in. The year prior, when I did the soil blocking and had a few per block, they were a lot stronger of starts. So I'm not going to be doing like any type of like compact starting with my onions this year. I obviously have a lot more space. I did not have this grow tent going into last year's seed starting, so I thought I was going to have to do hundreds and hundreds of seeds on this small rack here just to kind of save space. So since I have so much more space, I am actually going to soil block, and each onion's going to get their own block. This will also really help with planting them out. It will just be way faster. If you've ever planted out onions or garlic, you know it's a very tedious process. It takes a long time. So by having them in soil blocks and already individual, I will literally have to go outside, dig a small hole, plant the onion, and that will be it. I won't have to be pulling them apart and having to worry about getting them in super fast because those roots are exposed to the daylight and all sorts of stuff. So that was kind of a long explanation, but let's mix some soil and make some soil blocks, and let me show you that whole process. Of course, I don't have scissors. If you don't have scissors, just stab the back. Works the same way. And then we are going to add some water. I'm going to add this whole thing and mix it up. All right, you can see it's still pretty dry. So we're going to add some more water. Seems pretty good. This is a soil blocker. They come in a variety of sizes. I think this is the 2" by 2". Really like this little blocker here. I've had it for a few years. But yeah, you can find them all over. I think I got this one off Amazon. But all you do is we are going to really put this down in the soil and try to compact as much dirt into these little blocks as we possibly can. And then we are just going to use our little lever system here and push them out. The one thing I love, love, love about soil blocking is you don't have any seed starting equipment cleanup minus the trays. And you can just easily throw it and plant it into the ground. You're not having to worry about, again, any of the other stuff. Just really easy to plop it into the soil real fast. I will say I won't soil block everything either. I won't soil block like tomatoes, peppers, anything like that. Typically, like a soil block like this, you can see it's pretty tiny. You're gonna want to plant out anything in like a 4 to 6 week window. Since I'm doing onions here, I'm really not concerned about all of that because they're going to be planted out like here in an 8-week period, like 8-9 week period. So they really won't have too long to get too big down here. Onions take quite a bit of time, and that's one reason why you start them so early. All right, and then all you do is pull up and you got your blocks. So as I was moving blocks around, I realized I didn't talk about this while seed starting. These are heat mats. These are 2x4 heat mats, and I really like these because they fill a whole area. I have 3 of them on this big shelf here, and they fit the shelf perfectly. I love, love, love the big mats. I also have a smaller one somewhere. I had one like this for years because I wasn't doing much seed starting, but you can see how small this is. This isn't, I think, even by, it's probably like 18 by 10 inches. Very, very small. These ones, these big ones, I got in a 2-pack last year and the year prior. So I have 4 of those really big ones, and they are so nice. So nice. They literally fit everything, and I highly suggest them. Again, I will make sure I link everything below for you guys. And obviously, like, I do use some like fertilizers and stuff. I have like all-purpose liquids and stuff. Once plants have been in here for about 8 weeks or so, I will start feeding them. I just noticed by making sure I feed them before they go outside, my starts just end up being a lot stronger. And they're able just to play around with the environment a little bit more. I mean, the stronger the starts you have, the healthier starts you have going outside, the healthier they're going to stay throughout the gardening season. At least that's how I look at things. I got the blocks done, and before we start throwing some seeds in them, I forgot one more thing on my list, which I honestly can't believe I forgot this when it comes to seed starting. I love having a garden sprayer to water seedlings because it just makes it so much easier than trying to use a watering can or having to take them outside to water. Yeah, get yourself a garden sprayer. It will be so much easier to water your seedlings. This is like one of those tops like I have to have for seed starting. That is why I can't believe I forgot about it. It was just sitting in the corner over there, and I honestly completely forgot about it. So, all right, so I'm gonna break out this tape here. And I am going to do, I think I'm gonna do 2 of these all caliber, which was that hybrid variety from Johnny's that I really wanted to do this year. Simply because a lot of the heirloom varieties I've done over the years, they really just haven't done that well, and I really just want a really good onion harvest this year. I am going to be planting out a little less than I typically do. I think in years prior, I've started like 200 plus onion seeds, and this year these 4 trays equal 128, which I am fine with. That still averages me 2 to 3 onions a week for a year, which obviously a lot of these onions, their shelf life typically is like 6 to 9 months. So that should get me pretty far. I typically use like 2 to 3 onions a week. So I really don't need to be planting more than this. Also, I'm going to be taking up less room. I'm taking up less room on the things that I'm still trying to figure out a little bit when it comes to gardening. This is one of those years I really want to dial in certain crops that have been like all over the place throughout the years. So all I'm going to do is take each seed, plop it into one of the soil blocks. These are roughly like 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to barely spread some soil on top and give them a good water, and that is it. I'm going to put them on some heat mats. That way that heat can help them germinate a little bit. So since the Walla Walla is a long day onion, I think I'm actually gonna go back on what I just said And I'm going to do 2.5 of these all caliber, which is the intermediate day hybrid I got from Johnny's. And I'm going to do 16 of these blocks Walla Walla, kind of as an experiment to see how a long day onion might do in my garden. The one thing I love about gardening, and then the one thing I also hate about gardening, is you have one season to try something new, and if it doesn't work, well, you have next year, which is always great. You always have that to fall back on, but you get one chance every year. So when you're trying to play around and see what works, it can sometimes be really hit or miss. I am going to put just a few seeds in each hole just for germination purposes, and I'll probably cut back anything else that sprouts. For some reason, my smaller sprayer isn't working, so I went and got my big, huge sprayer. Alright. You definitely don't need anything on this level of fanciness, but here we are. Good thing I brought a towel, because that was just a little bit more messy than the smaller one. All right, so that pretty much concludes everything for today. I did want to leave this out there. If you have any seed starting questions, leave them down below. I'm contemplating doing like a seed starting Q&A here in like a week or two, just because I know that there's a lot of questions around seed starting and it can be really confusing in your first few years. So if you have any questions, definitely leave those below. But until then, I will see you guys all next week. Bye.